It's like we're back in school. Raise your hand. Thank you, Kathy. Okay, so I got a couple of good questions all the way from Dharma to death. And I'm going to start with wonderful Raoul Grey Wolf. Thank you for your question. It's a really simple one. He said, I hear the Dharma, quote Dharma, D-H-A-R-M-A, mentioned in different contexts. Will you please explain this term? Probably a whole discourse. Explain it in 25 words or less. LOL. So it's a great question, a really important question for those of us as Buddhists. So Dharma with a capital D, when you see it, means the Buddhist teachings, the teachings of the truth. So it means the wisdom of Buddhism as it's taught by the Buddha with a capital D. Dharma with a small d, and sometimes in Pali it's called Dhamma without the R, just two M's, D-H-A-M-M-A. It actually means the phenomenon of all existence. So everything is Dhamma, this pen, remember my wonderful pen, the glasses, the screen, everything is Dhamma. Everything is this phenomena. So when you're talking about Dharma, you're talking about two levels, the truth, Eightfold Path, Four Noble Truths, Big Dharma, capital D, and then everything has Dharma in it. And that's why in one talk, there was a Dharma talk that the Buddha gave, he just held up a flower for the whole talk. He never said anything. He just held up a flower. Because the flower was the Dharma and Dhamma. It was all of it. All of it right there. He didn't have to say anything. And I guess one person really got it and woke up during that Dharma talk. And when I was at Insight Meditation Society, I lived there and was the resident teacher for 6 years. All the staff members would do talks during our staff retreat. And one of the young staff members from Australia, he, for his Dharma talk, he just held up a fork from the dining hall. It was a great example of that. So it could be a fork, it could be a flower, a pen. It's all Dhamma or Dharma now. So that's one question. The next one was about the sushi cartoon. How do I stop myself from spiraling down? And if I am under the table, what are the tools to use to get myself back up? So, Paul, do you want to show the sushi cartoon again? So in case any of you forgot. Trying to do sushi, damn, you spoiled it again, like everything you do. Sushi's like your life, you do everything wrong. See how we're spiraling here, right? You start a lot of things but never finish anything. Nobody loves you. So you can take that away. I know the person who sent this question, and really it's working with parts. I know that you know about parts. So it's just a part of you that spirals down, not all of you. Your awareness you never is under the table. And that's really important to get. Your witness you is never under the table. You can know you're under the table. And parts of you get under the table, and parts of you take that downward spiral. but your true nature never does that. So always keep that in mind. So then whatever we're doing to help those parts of us that spiral, we're just helping those parts. And we're helping those parts with your wise self. And I know you know about the wise self energy. You know, when I would face this all the time, and like I said, I felt I was often under the table. I'd have to lay on the floor because the self-hatred would just be so loud and just like I was being pummeled. I'd have to lay on the floor. And what we can do, and a part of us is caught in that, is just go over and stroke the hair with your wise self, with your awareness. Stroke the hair of the person, the part of you that's under the tape. Just go over. I know you'll have another part that can do this. Just stroke the hair. The one who's lost under the table. And like I said yesterday in the talk, if you have to do that 1,000,000 times, go over and stroke the hair. Oh my God, you're under the table again. I so love you. I'm still here for you. Sorry you got under the table. Sorry that you got scared again or overwhelmed. And however many times you have to do that with your awareness self, with your wise self, with your true nature. On a practical level, for some of my clients, I developed what's called a channel changer list, on a practical level. And if anybody really wants these, I can get them together. And I started it kind of with COVID, just ways to break that pattern. There's practical ways. Bilateral movement, they know, just moving left to right, walking, running. Pick up the phone, call someone, pick up the 500-pound phone and call someone. Praying, asking your higher power to help if you have one. Journaling, listening to really loud music. I mean, some people even suggest, I know for a lot of trauma, some trauma therapies, that you put an ice pack on the back of your neck because it kind of shocks you into another state of mind. Listening to podcasts or something inspirational can be a really good channel changer. Getting in water, if it's a swimming pool, even a shower or bath, the ocean here. These are channel changers. Journaling. Sometimes you're just writing a list of everything you're grateful for, and all the gratitudes can kind of shift the channel. Looking into someone's eyes, like we talked about yesterday in the beginning, that eye contact is really a trauma reset. Looking in your dog's eyes. And lastly, going out in nature, really looking at the trees. The trees don't have any self-hatred. And one tree doesn't look at another and go, "You stupid idiot, you're so small and I'm so much bigger." And we don't think they do. Trees don't have this negative self-talk. Your dog doesn't have negative self-talk. So look at things that don't have negative self-talk and don't do that spiral, and then that can reset you. I really love going out in nature during these times of COVID, and especially the ocean, because nature doesn't know what the pandemic or COVID is. So when you're with the trees or when you're with the fish, they don't hold that reality. So you can't hold that reality for the time that you're in there. I mean, you can try, but then you realize it's just this thought loop, right? This movie going on in your head. Here you are in the ocean and none of the fish have any idea about COVID. They don't even know what a car or a truck is. So you can't hold your story when you're in a reality that doesn't hold that story. That you go out in the woods, it doesn't hold that story of pandemic. So those are some channel changers. Stroking your head, remembering about your wise self that's never caught under the table. And, you might also just look at, what are the triggers that get you under the table? It just bears mentioning that the middle of the night is never a time to believe your thoughts, period. It's almost like I used to realize a huge amount of under the table thoughts occurred from like 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. And you wake up in the middle of the night, and whatever your mind says should really be put on hold. And I always tell myself, all right, whatever this fear is, this worry, if in the light of day at 9 a.m. this is still a concern, then we'll address it. And if we need to, we write it down. But you don't try to problem solve when you're in certain trigger places. And especially the middle of the night is one of those. And lastly, just to bring a witness to this process, like you could just call it, under the table mode. And that, again, that's just going into the witness itself. One of my bodywork teachers who really helped me get free of depression, she called it the cat up the tree. A different label, right? And something would happen and I would get spooked and just go up the tree. And then you're up the tree for hours. Little thing like rolling the sushi. And it takes a long time to get the cat down from the tree. But it's okay. Cats always come down from the tree. If you get the ladder and try, what are you doing up there? And try and get it down, it moves higher. So you're just patient, loving. You might sit at the bottom of the tree with some food. Chewing the mouth motion, it's the earliest way we regulate it as babies. So, eating or drinking fluids, this can really reset too. It's a really primordial way that we can reset our nervous systems when we're lost in a thought loop. So the cat goes up the tree, you're under the sushi table, just a matter of having this wise self that goes, okay, that's happening, patient, take your time. And just know it's a thought loop. So somebody asked about, somewhat simple question about, I'll read it. I have an issue that I find strange and maybe a little embarrassing. Sometimes as I meditate, I forget to breathe. I'll suddenly find a mere pang of panic followed by a realization that I'm not breathing. Of course, I then force myself to breathe and I can return to meditating. I'm not sure, but I think this problem is related to the fact for many years I tried to apply yoga breathing techniques to mindfulness meditation. Although I've learned that I should breathe as naturally as possible during meditation, I haven't been able to shake an unnatural feeling to my breath or feeling weirdly guilty when I fail to breathe naturally. This is such a great example of how we get caught in the shoulds and the worries about not doing it right, and really how we get locked up in meditation. It's such a great example of how we get locked up, and we can get locked up in a million different ways. I'm not doing it right, some kind of doubt, or this feeling of caught in the breath. So the answer really is about how to get unlocked in the meditation. So the first is just to realize you have a part of you that's locked up and that worries it doesn't know how to do it. Then you have a part of you that has this conditioning from your yoga to do it a certain way. And then another part that worries that, that judges you about that. So there's kind of it's a little bit like the sushi table. And just to bring awareness to that, like, oh, there it is. Like, I'm not doing it. Now I'm bad. Now I don't know how to do it. Well, maybe I should. It's a cluster. So just to bring awareness to that, again, almost stroking your hair. Like, it's okay. Breathing happens. I'm being breathed. And like I said earlier, you could go to the hands touching if that happens. Simple thing, you can't do that wrong. And, you just have some conditioning around that. And your conditioning is somewhat positive because of yoga, but I work with a lot of people that have had trauma with the breath. Say somebody tried to drown them or something happened around choking trauma, they cannot be with the breath as the meditation object. And that's fine. That might not be your meditation object. It doesn't have to be. In their case, they had a really traumatic negative conditioning, but you have a more positive conditioning, but it's still conditioning. It's still conditioning. So see how you want to work with that conditioned fear and doubt and clench that comes up. And be curious with it and compassionate. It really doesn't matter what the object of meditation is. That's the beauty. The breath is just one of 40 objects of meditation. So yeah, you could be with sounds and hands touching and just the stillness in your body. So if it gets too intense, just back off. Back off. It's really okay for each one of us to back off if we get in that knotted state. And remember, you are being breathed by something. What is it? You could pay attention to what is it gets you to realize that you need to breathe, that's not you. Something wakes you up, and it's good even when you're lost in thought and you come back to the breathing. For those of us who don't have issues with breathing, you can be lost in thought for 10 minutes, a half an hour. What is it that brings you back? It's not you. And even on a bigger level, what wakes you up in the morning? So we're asleep. We're totally asleep in a dream. And I know, irrespective of your alarm going off, get curious about what wakes you up in the morning. What is that? It's not you. You were asleep. And herein lies some really interesting stuff if you start to get curious about this. What is it that's breathing you naturally? So the last question I got in an email. I had some trouble with the elder's meditation. I struggle with shoulds, creating a sense of shame that I kept running into. Also, I am already an elder of 70 years, so imagining myself 10 to 20 years in the future creates some feelings of panic. I kind of wondered some people would be already in their 70s, how that would be. Again, there's a lot to this question, and one is how we get locked up in the shoulds, which I kind of already addressed, just to go, I don't have an elder, or my elder is more like a feeling of panic, or 10 to 20 years out is too far. So just watching that. And remember, the witness you doesn't ever get locked up. But the elder meditation, and even what I'm talking about right now, it's just your wise self. The one that knows you're under the sushi table, the one that knows that you are up the tree. And your wise self is always here. Your wise self is ageless, timeless. Here it is. Doesn't have any thoughts, feelings. It's just this presence of this wise elder. When they talked about Deepa Ma, who I wrote a book about, she was this, amazing presence of peace. And they said she was like a mountain of calm. And we each have that. We don't have to cultivate it. Each one of us is a mountain of calm wisdom when you can go to your GPS device, get out of here. And so really the elder meditation is just seeing what that is and how this is always here. It might take the form of you 10 years out, but it's really your highest self, your truest nature that's not about all the mishigas in your head. The GPS, your one spiritual heart, that's your wise elder. And she or he will always be with you. And I think there's the last thing I want to say about this question, I think there's another piece here about death. I mean, it always comes down to death, doesn't it? My teacher I've been working with recently, he's kind of a guru-ish type person. And he said, "You want a guru?" He goes, "Death is the ultimate guru." He goes, "Death is your guru, but nobody wants death as their guru. But if you're on your deathbed, what if death was your guru? You'd walk right into him or her. Yeah, okay. Whatever that next experience is with your guru." Death is not something we need to be afraid of. It's you coming home to you. And yeah, you're going to have parts, and it's perfect, in the elder meditation, you're going to have parts that I can't do it. Oh my God, I don't know. What? Right? Sushi table moment. So again, it's really how we relax, surrender to Death Guru, and just trust. We don't have to know. We don't have to know. That's really the secret. Just go from here. I don't know, but oh my God, it's scary. No, it's right here. Your GPS, no matter what song's playing up here when we're dying, this is going to carry you all the way back home, all the way to the other side or wherever it is or whatever it is, where or what. You don't have to know. And if you want, I'd suggest you might want to ask that question. They're on the inquiry questions that we had in your handouts. Who or what will witness your death? That's a very profound question if you really sit with it, almost like Ramana Maharshi did. That was a moment of Ramana Maharshi's awakening when he saw the answer to that question. After you die and you leave the body and you enter out of the body mind, what you is going to be here? What's going to be here? Something keeps going. And my teacher said it's kind of like when you're here in the body, mind, it's almost like something is painting you in living colors, right? and you're seeing everything's being painted as we're talking. And then after you leave the body and the mind, he was saying like something keeps painting, but there's no more colors. It's almost like something's painting with a clear marker. Something's still painting though. What is that? That's still painting. And they've looked at near-death experiences. Something still goes on and keeps going. So in this very life, you use that inquiry question. Know what that is. What will witness your death? What will keep going? And you don't have to wait for your death, even just what's witnessing your life now. What witnesses this moment right now? That's your, quote, wise elder. Your wise self is just knowing all this. And knowing this, but not my knowing, but again, the knowing, the awareness that's just happening through us, that gaze of eternity, happening through our body and mind, through our character in the dream. It's only your character in the dream that dies. So then what's left? So if it's helpful, use those inquiry questions. Sometimes even in that wise elder meditation, people imagine themselves on their deathbed talking to themselves. And usually that person on their deathbed says, hey, it's fine. No worry. It'll be fine. Whatever you're worried about now is no big deal. That's another strategy under the sushi table. When you're under the sushi table, is just to go, what's this going to be like 10 years from now? 5 years from now? A year from now? Time is a great perspective maker. Okay, there's one more thing I wanted to say, and then I'm going to look at some of the questions of raised hands. Don't worry about where you are. So think of the practice as like a seed, an apple tree seed. I mean, it's so small, isn't it? But in that seed of the apple tree is already the tree in full bloom in spring, with apples hanging from it. So you're that apple tree seed. And it doesn't matter if you're still way under the ground going, where is the light of day? You're under the sushi table. I will never be an apple tree. When? It's so dark in here. There's so much pressure. Okay, eventually then that little seed comes up, and it's got different issues when it little shoot coming up, right? But it's still like, when am I going to be an apple tree? But everything in that seed, wherever you are in your process, already has the apple tree. It's guaranteed you will find freedom. It's that GPS. It's genetically already here. That you're here now on this call. You are going to be the apple tree. So wherever you find yourself, under the ground, under the sushi table, already in full bloom, it doesn't matter. We're all going to be the apple tree, or the orange tree, or the mango tree, whatever. That's the beauty, as people wake up more and more, it's just like, oh, look, you're a mango tree. It's just wonderful to see all the trees blossoming in all different stages. So enjoy this process. Don't judge where you find yourself. Okay, so I'm going to look at who's got their hand raised. All right, so. Oh, yes, definitely. Thanks. That's a great question. Yeah, the Dalai Lama called it good medicine. He said, take what's good medicine. Take what's good medicine. Diabetes medication is good medicine if you're diabetic. If you have severe depression and you're under the sushi table constantly, you need a medication to get you in the witness you. And medication can take that bottom out. Sometimes antidepressant. I took antidepressants for a few years when I was even a meditation teacher, early on. It helped show me what it was like to not be under the table. I had never had a not under the table moment. I mean, this is kind of sad to say, but when I took the medications, I'm like, oh, this is what it's like not to be under the table. And then from then, I kind of used mindfulness to get, back to that place. And eventually didn't need the medication, but, we have biochemical changes, especially if we have manic depression or severe depression. Yeah, and that's fine. That's fine. You wouldn't think of if you were diabetic saying, well, maybe I should get off my diabetes medication because meditation should be able to heal that. we have such a judgment about when it relates to here that medication should be able to isn't the right thing to do. But like the Dalai Lama said, it's good medicine, things that help your mind be more sane and be able to be more mindful. Originally they used food. Food was considered almost like a regulating thing and a medication for the monks and nuns a long time ago, the right foods. So of course we need the right medication to balance our system. And really watch any parts of you that shame yourself for that. No, it's definitely not a problem. It won't interfere. I guarantee, look at me, it won't interfere with your ability to be completely free. No medication will stop you from freedom.
Okay.
So do what you need to do. Listen to what your doctors say and trust. You're on the path to awakening no matter what you put in your mouth. I mean, if you have an addiction to drugs or alcohol, that's a whole nother topic. And awakening is a powerful thing. And there are people that wake up even through addictions, but you don't need to make it hard for awakening. But your medicine is good medicine. Yeah. And I wouldn't worry about even the addictive components of, say, certain things that we might take. Some people might be on Xanax or whatever for anxiety. That's okay. That's okay. Just keep practicing and all will be revealed when you keep practicing. Yeah, you'll just kind of know more and more. Yeah. Thank you. So glad you're here. All right, so the next person is with their raised hand is thank you. It's a beautiful and important, timely question. I mean, the first thing I would say is just for you to notice there is suffering. And that's from the Amravati Buddhists. They would just say, there is suffering. First noble truth. There is suffering. And that even precludes our depression about it or what should we do about it. Just there is suffering. And then we're just in that witness state of mind for a second. And again, you might notice all the parts that come in, part that feels hopeless, despair, angry, overwhelmed. and the you that can know you have all those parts. So we're really trying again to get into a wisdom self with all this, our wisdom self. And, in far the environment certainly needs more people in their wisdom self, not their depressed self, not their angry self, their quiet wisdom self. So for you, it really is that elder in you that can just see, and it might right action, and then seeing what right action means. It's often right action, not a reaction. We're talking about action, not a reaction. So to hold a big space, we're going to feel what we're going to feel. And with the environment, it's huge. And there is a lot of suffering right already in the here and now. And we project a lot into the future, which, come back to the present as much as you can, see what you need to do in the present. Come back to the stillness of your being whenever you can. And if there is an action, let it come out of this compassion. Everything is going to die. We're back to the death guru. You want a guru? Everything is going to die. We're not here to save anything. Every plant, every animal, every human is going to die. And if you just hold that, and the cause of it is somebody kills me versus I die naturally, we create an idea about that, but we're all going to have a death moment. Everything. We don't make that bad or good. We don't need to be. So just sit with the death guru in this. And then see, right action and compassionate love. Byron Katie, somebody said, well, you're just loving what is. What, you're just going to sit there on the couch? And she said to our group when I was studying with her, she said, love doesn't do that.
Okay.
Love doesn't just sit on the couch. I mean, maybe it might for a minute. So you'll see as, your death, my death, all of our death guru process, what that means. I'll just share a little personal. I mean, I live here in the ocean, and the ocean is dying. I mean, the temperature is rising and coral is dying. And I've been swimming the ocean for 13 years, and all of us see it. And it's not about, at this point, it's probably not about a lot of changes because the temperature is just heating up exponentially. And so all of us swimmers have had to deal with grief. It's grief.
Mm-hmm.
And really acknowledge it's palliative care grief. And I realized that part of me was like, I'm going to move away from the ocean. I don't even want to see the death of it. And then I realized, no, it's like a best friend dying. You want to be there with every moment of it. So I came back and I said, when I go out in the ocean and see more coral die and I cry, I want to be there with that. And yeah, I do what I can. I always pick up trash in the ocean. But I just open my heart to my dying friend. That really will be the death of me too. And so I open my heart to, my life becomes a palliative care. Like we're hospice nurses every day of our life with this planet. And what that means for you to be part of this grief and watching your friend, the earth, going through changes. It's so complicated. There's no what to do, but it's more how you relate to it And we're back to the death guru over and over and over again. That seems the sushi under the table and the death guru, we have these great themes. Welcome. Thank you for asking. Right. So when you're sitting, this part comes in that's just la 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 la, la, right? Obsessing, going looping, like we talked about looping. Yeah. Okay. The first is just to realize it's a part of you. And sometimes when we get quiet, those OCD parts really want to talk. Da, 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 da. Mm-hmm. You could have her sit down next to you on the cushion. It's like a little kid part, right? Oh, but now what do we worry about this? And right? And just have her, it's a part of you. It's not all of you.
Yeah.
Whatever part is feeling this depth of heart right now, this part that's crying, that's not your OCD part. That's your ancient mother that just knows the truth of your being. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Right, your kids. And there's probably a bunch of OCD parts. Often we have a bunch of them. Let them be like a bunch of kids just sitting around your giant ancient mother is sitting here meditating, and they're like, ooh, they're popping. Right? Sometimes I talk about working the minds like whack-a-mole. You hit one, another comes up. Ooh, ooh. It's like the whack-a-mole game. So just let them all sit around you. And, it's okay to have some of our parts that are really anxious and high energy. They can go out and play. They don't have to be on the meditation cushion. Send them to the beach in Hawaii. Hey, go over there. And then your ancient mother, your wise self, we're back to the wise self again, could just be here, and they can be. And sometimes, even like one of my good friends was a teacher, and when kids would get really nervous in her classroom, she'd just go over to them and she'd just gently put her hand on their shoulder, and they would just totally relax. She's almost like, I'm here. I can hear you. I'm here, And they'd be so like, I got a question. And so you can do that with all your parts, just this wonderful, wise you, just putting your hand on all the parts that are doing this. And it doesn't matter. You're big enough. Your wise self is bigger than all your OCD parts. You can feel that now. Yeah. And then they pop up. They're all popping off in what? They're popping off in this presence of you. So that's enough said, I think. I could go on, but you've got it. You've already got it. Thank you. Just love and compassion. Yeah, that's the answer. Awareness and compassion. All right, we're going to take one last really quick question from, First of all, I don't tell the story that working with people drains my connection. Every connection is love. Even when you're working with a client that's really dysregulated, all connection is love. So I see it from that perspective to start with. And then, self-care, it's really a great question. Meditation, I come back to the me that's never dysregulated. I come back to the silence of my being often. And in the closing, in a few minutes, I'll mention about, what to do in a daily practice. For me, and I've already mentioned it, it's the ocean, and you could have your version of the ocean, which might be looking into your dog's eyes or cat's eyes, going into the woods. But I go, wow, these beings have They don't know anything about psychology. They don't know anything about trauma. They don't know anything about COVID. So when I'm swimming in the ocean, I'm just like, I let myself just be the ocean. Be the, let yourself wear the suit of the universe. The gaze of eternity. Yeah, be the suit of the universe. And then it's like the idea of self-care comes from the me perspective, and that's not, the more and more the me perspective's really irrelevant. There are things to balance my body, but more and more there's no mind or psychology that gets dysregulated. I was asking my teacher about judgment the other day. I'm like, because judgment's my nemesis. It's hard to admit that, but it is. At my first retreat, I'm like, I didn't think I was a judging person. At my very first meditation retreat, I was like, oh my God, all I did was judge for 10 days. And I was asking him about judgment, and he said, where would judgment get formed? He's like, if you really are the universe, or you were in the mind of God, which you are, he's like, where would judgment get created if you were God? Where would dysregulation get created if you were all of it? Each one of you is me. And we're all in it together as one thing. And the one thing isn't me holding it. The one thing just is the one thing. And the more you are able to be you, the last thing I'll say, the more you're able to be you as your art form, you just as you, whatever that means, not a lot will stick or land on you. You're just being you fully. Open the trap door to your heart. Something Ajashanti taught me a long time. That helps too. You're taking stuff in. Just open the trap door. All right. So sorry if we didn't get to some of you that might have had raised hands farther down. But we're going to go ahead and close the retreat. So Kathy wanted to say something, I think, about the local Sangha there that hosted this wonderful retreat for us all. She let us crash the Austin retreat.
Actually, we had invited Amita here for an in-person retreat, but that kind of didn't work out. So our Sangha offers a number of online programs to support your practice. We sit daily from 7 to 8 a.m. in silent meditation. It's a wonderful way to start the day, as well as offering weekly sits with Dharma discussion on Thursday nights and Sunday mornings. A 4-week class on cultivating joy in daily life starts this coming Tuesday from 9:30 to 10:30 a.m. Central Time. Our next online retreat will be with Shyla Catherine from December 28th to the 31st. And you can find out about all of this on our website, mariposasangha.org, or you can email me, and you all have my email. Again, thank you for your practice this weekend.
And then we'll do the closing prayer. So the world is your meditation room. Just remember that. It's not here in these rooms, or if you go on a regular retreat, the world is your meditation room. Remember just to move from the radio station to the GPS of your heart whenever you can, and as many times as you can do this. They've shown it's not so much like we meditate an hour or 2 hours a day, that if you come back many times, Richie Davidson's research, some of it is showing now that that's equal to like an hour sit. You have this sincere effort to go, well, how am I caught? Where am I caught? Boom, come back to here. Remember to be mindful throughout the day, little moments, many times, is just as important as, like, say, if you were to sit an hour. Do what you can. I try to have my bottom lines, and maybe my bottom line is just to sit for 5 minutes a day some days, and that's okay. Do what you can, and just have a culture inside of commitment and sincerity to keep coming back. And it's great. First Noble Truth is so great. Just notice when you're suffering. The minute you're suffering, it's like the warning light going off on your car dashboard, like, whoa, what is happening? Okay, come back. What's going on? Suffering is a great mindfulness bell. And, just really never give up. Never, just keep going, keep going. The sincerity to just keep looking at our suffering and unplugging our mind and loving our environment and ourself no matter what. And being in the awareness, not my awareness, the awareness over the gaze of eternity, wearing the universe suit. Just keep coming back to that a million times, and that'll be all you need. How does the gaze of eternity see this person? How does the gaze of eternity see the coral dying? It's been so wonderful. I really had a great time. I like doing new things. I have parts that like doing new things. And it's really great to have good tech support like Kathy and Paul. That makes doing new things, jumping off the cliff, a lot safer. I've got little bungees holding me. So we'll just close with the Yellow Springs Dharma Center blessing and wish. Thank you, Paul. A wish. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my practice. By virtue of all our practice today, may all beings be free of suffering. And especially you as the world, be free. Okay, so if you want to unmute yourself, we can all say bye. It's like the Waltons, Bye, good night.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, Shamita.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
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 Namaste.